Welcome to the March 10th, 2026 board meeting of the Salina Public Schools Board of Education. Thanks for joining us tonight. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is an amendment to our agenda, and there's an amendment to the personnel report at your spot. Is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Now recognitions and presentations. Bring Olivia Opat up for Teacher of the Year and Superintendent Excellence Awards.
Good evening. Tonight, our student photographer is Percy Holsey. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your work. First, we're going to celebrate our Teachers of the Year. I'm pleased to introduce our Elementary Teacher of the Year, Janelle Stelter, High Incident Special Education Teacher at Coronado Elementary School. Janelle, you're now invited to the podium to speak.
I can't tell you how nervous I am. It's ridiculous. I talk in front of kids and they don't even listen, so this is a lot. So first of all, I just want to thank you for honoring me today. I'm very grateful for this recognition. Salina Schools and the co-op that I work for are full of amazing teachers, and to be associated with them is a pleasure. I've learned so much and continue to try to learn from the awesome administrators and teachers, service providers, paras, and not to forget the families and the amazing kids that I get to work with. I feel very fortunate. I've always wanted to work with children, and then when I watched my mom go back to school later in life to become a teacher, I decided to follow that path as well. I never really pictured it would look like it does. For those that work with me, you know. But I work with special education students, and I have a group of amazing kids, very unique. I call them my boys, and I love them. And I could talk about them all day, but I'm not going to do that. We can do that another time, maybe. Instead, I just want to tell you a little bit about how I got here. I graduated with my teaching degree, and then I put everything on pause and raised my kids, and I stayed home for several years. And I was very blessed to do that. However, that meant I was behind the curve a little bit. After several years of subbing, taking classes to renew my certificate, and even working as a para in a different district, I decided it was time to apply for jobs in the 305 district. My first interview was horrific. I left the building laughing instead of crying because I just performed very poorly and I was not ready. But I decided that was okay. It had been a long time since I'd been in the workforce, and it was a learning curve. And I just sat in the parking lot and I prayed that whatever job I was supposed to have, what I was meant to do, would come my way. Little did I know, a week later, I would be called for a job interview for a job I did not apply for in special education. But I accepted the interview and it went really well. A week later, I was offered the job and I accepted it. It was to work at Huesner in the autism program. There, I met my dear friend, Barbara Bartz, and she had run the program very successfully for years, and we hit it off from the start. We had a lot of commonalities in our family life, but professionally, we were quite different. She knew what she was doing. I had no idea, and I didn't know what I was getting into. So thank you, Barbara, for so many years of your friendship and your mentorship, and she took me under her wing, and she always treated me like a peer, was patient and calm, and taught me all about giving grace to kids. I had never really had my own classroom, per se, and I had very limited experience at that time with kids with special needs. And since then, I found it to be very exciting, exhausting, but never boring. 4 years later, the program at Huesner was dissolved, and I was asked to move to Coronado. I had some serious doubt, and I had a lot of fear. I was afraid that not only myself, but my fellow educators would realize I was not qualified for this job, because I had always had Barbara to lean on. We'd always planned together. We had each other's back, and now I was sent out there to do it on my own. From the beginning, the principal at the time was Krista Farrell, and she welcomed me with open arms, and she showed me respect, and she had belief in me. That first year was really, really hard. I had very difficult kids with significant needs, but she gave me the confidence I needed, and she let me develop my room, invent my own style and my own philosophy, and that was a gift that I didn't even know I needed. From there, the leadership shifted, and Tyler Burnett took over as principal. He has always had my back from the get-go. When I go to him with a concern or a question, his first response is always, "What do you need from me? How can I help?" And usually I just needed to vent and put it out there and get it off my chest. But knowing he has my back is a great comfort. His leadership is strong but quiet, and he has confidence in me and all my other colleagues at Coronado. He trusts that we know our students best. I know there's been a few times that he's questioned my sanity. I remember a few years ago, I was all excited that I was going to do this lesson about how different cultures celebrate different events, and we were going to have a piñata. I don't know if he remembers this, and I said, "We're going to have a piñata." And he said, "You're going to give them weapons?" And I did, and it was great, and we had a ball, and he was right to question it because we've had some incidents, but it was fun, and it all worked out. I've also been blessed to work with Stephanie Trowski. She was the lead teacher there for several years, and now I have Danny Bradrick as my assistant principal, and both have been instrumental and supportive. I feel supported and encouraged every day at Coronado, and I couldn't ask for anything more from my administration. So in case I haven't told you, thank you. I also want to thank my family, my friends, coworkers, and the co-op and the district for recognizing me. I don't take this title lightly, and I hope that I can represent everybody and make you proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Next, I'm pleased to introduce our Secondary Teacher of the Year, Erica Kane, Adaptive Special Education Teacher at South High School. Erica, you are now ready to speak at the podium.
Well, good evening. Like Janelle, I do much better in front of students than I do adults, so I'm a little nervous, but I am truly honored and humbled to be named the USD 305 Secondary Teacher of the Year. I, too, came into special education kind of off a different route. When I graduated from college with my undergraduate degree, I wanted to be a history teacher. And back then, a lot of people wanted to be history teachers, and I subbed. My husband's job was here, so I subbed for about a year and a half and got to see a lot of different classrooms and learn what works and what doesn't. I think everybody should have to sub at least for a little bit. And so I subbed a lot in special education, and a lady that I knew really well, her name was Christy Wise, I subbed for her quite a bit over at Central. Fabulous teacher. She called me up and she said, "Erica," she goes, "how about teaching special education? Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, I love working with your students. I love working in your guys' rooms. I would be willing to do so." And here I am, 29 years later. So I just feel like this has been my calling, and I feel very blessed to be given that opportunity to do so. They say it takes a village to raise a child. We've all heard that saying. It also takes a village to educate a child. And I want to thank my fellow teachers and staff. And throughout my 29 years of teaching, I've been blessed to work with an amazing team of teachers, pairs, and support staff. Just so very blessed. And their dedication, their passion, and support push me to be better every day. We all know teaching can be very challenging, but being surrounded by my village has made all the difference. I can't express how thankful I am to work with the people that I do. And when I first became a teacher, I thought, my job was going to be impart all of my knowledge that I spent 4 years learning. I'm going to teach the students facts and skills, and I quickly learned that education is all about relationships. And I know we hear that all the time, but it is so very true. It's about helping, I get very emotional too, so I apologize, but it's about helping students believe in themselves, discover their voices, and realize that their ideas matter. As a special education teacher, a lot of times I have to be the voice because they might not have it yet. And so I work very diligently with my team to be the voice for those students that really struggle to make their voices heard. Every day in a special education classroom is different. Some days are full of breakthroughs when a student finally understands a difficult concept or discovers a new passion. Other days, which are my favorite, are the ones that are quieter, but just as meaningful, if not more so. It's when a student feels safe enough to ask a question, try again after failing, or simply know that someone believes in them. Those are the moments that make this profession so very special. I tell my students when they come in the very first day, and I teach 9 through 12, mostly freshmen and sophomore English classes, and so I tell the students when they come in that, if they learn anything from me, I want them to know that they have somebody that is in their corner that cares about them. And that if they know at the end of the day that that is me for them, I have done my job. And I feel like once they learn that you care, they will do whatever you ask most of the time. So I just take that to heart. And I wanted to thank my students, both past and present. I used to be able to remember every single kid I ever had. And I'm at that point in my career where I see somebody at Dillon's and they're like, "Hey, Mrs. Kane, do you remember me?" I'm like, sorry, I remember the face, but they're just all so special, and they're the reason why I love coming to school each morning. Their curiosity, their resilience, their potential remind me of why this work matters. I have learned from every single one of them. I also want to thank my family for their endless support. My kids have seen the kind of crazed back to school mom where things are really hectic at the very beginning of the year. They've also gotten to experience the more chill mom over Christmas break where she needs a much needed break or spring break. But my family has been very supportive. They know that I love what I do. I try to leave some patience for them when I get home as well. But I'm just very blessed. And so I just want to thank everybody for this honor. I feel so privileged to be nominated. It's not an award I have ever thought I would receive. Never expected it. And so I just want to remind everybody that, here we are as teachers, and we carry a huge responsibility. And so I just take that to heart. We're here to guide, encourage, and believe in every student who walks through our doors. And I think that's just the heart of education and why I'm here, and I'm so very blessed. So thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Our Teachers of the Year receive a $1,000 check, the H.E. Irma Lee Nuss Teacher of the Year Award, in recognitions of their efforts on behalf of Salina schools. This is the 34th year for these awards made possible by the Nuss family. We are honored to have Lawton Nuss, retired Chief Justice of the Kansas Supreme Court, joining us tonight. I now invite Justice Nuss to the podium to speak about his family's legacy with the Nuss Teacher of the Year Award.
Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to come back to my hometown. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to talk about my parents, in whose name this award appears. They were both born on farms in western Kansas in the 1920s. And according to my mother, neither her mother nor her mother-in-law were allowed to go past the 8th grade. According to my mother, neither her father nor her father-in-law were allowed to go past the 6th grade. And that is because in those days you were expected to stay in the community, be on the farm, work the farm, and marry a farmer. Well, my parents decided, even though they lived hundreds of miles apart, that that was not the way they wanted to proceed. They graduated from high school. My mother then went to Dodge City, what was then called junior college, at the age of 16. When she was 18, she graduated with her 2-year degree, and during World War II, you could teach school with a 2-year degree. So she signed her first teaching contract when she was 18 years old, and she then moved back home on the farm, and she rode her horse to the school every morning, and she cleaned up the schoolroom. It was a one-room schoolhouse. She was the only teacher. And when she was done teaching for the day, she cleaned up the classroom, she locked the door, she got back on her horse, and she rode back to her parents. She did that every school day, unless it was really bad weather. After a few years, she decided she wanted to get a 4-year degree. So she left there and she moved to Hayes and enrolled in what was then Fort Hays State College. and she graduated in 1947 with her 4-year degree in elementary art education. In the meantime, my father went to Pratt Junior College on a basketball scholarship, and he graduated, and unlike my mother, he went straight to Fort Hays State College. But something called World War II intervened, rerouted him to become a military pilot. And a few years later, actually about a year after the war ended, his active duty ended, and then he went back to Fort Hays, where he met my mother. He got a degree in what was called the industrial arts or industrial relations, which I today would call shop. This is what I took when I was here in Salina. Like I did last year, I brought along the yearbook from where they first began their teaching careers, Hill City, Kansas, north of Hays. And I have tabbed the page for you here to look to see what these young folks look like in their late 20s. Well, they liked life in Hill City for several years, and then my father decided, like some educators do, that he wanted to get an advanced degree. So they packed up, they moved to Manhattan, Kansas, and my dad enrolled at K-State to get a master's degree. And things were going very well for them until the Great Flood of 1951 hit, destroyed about everything that they owned. And so they packed up what few possessions they had, and they moved to Salina, where his parents had since moved. His dad was now a carpenter, and he got my dad a job as a carpenter for a construction company here in town because there were no teaching jobs available. To help make ends meet, my dad also refereed high school football and basketball games. And one night in the locker room after a game, the officiating crew was complaining about one of their colleagues who was a teacher like them at St. John's Military School. He had been involved in a serious car train accident, and they didn't know when he might be coming back. And one of them turned to my dad and said, "Hey, Nuss, you have a teaching degree, don't you?" My dad said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, why don't you apply?" So my dad applied, and he became what you would call today a long-term sub. And at the end of that school year, they gave him a contract for the next year. And he stayed there till about 1968, teaching industrial arts, aeronautics, and then he eventually became what I would call their dean of studies. Okay. Well, my mother arrives there and she says, "Well, you gave him a job teaching what he can teach. I'm here as an elementary art teacher. I'm ready to start." And they say, "We don't have any students who are in the elementary grades, and we don't have an art program. But we have a tiny little disorganized library. Why don't you take that over and run it?" So they started her there, and she said, "I'm not certified to do this for a school." And they said, "Well, that's okay. During the summers, you can go to Marymount College in Salina, and you can go to Emporia State, and you can get your degree in library science." So she did that. Well, in the mid-60s, after about 13 or 14 years, my dad said, "You know what? I did not get a chance to complete my master's degree. I want to do that." So during the summers, like some educators do, he would drive every day to Manhattan, and he got his master's degree. And then in 1968, he decided that he did not want to work at that school anymore, and he became the assistant principal at what was then Salina High School. Has anybody here ever had the pleasure of being a student in the high school where your dad was an assistant principal? It's not to be recommended, I'll tell you. My mother remained at the school for a couple more years, and then she got a job as an elementary librarian in USD 305. She worked at Sunset, Hughesner, and Grace Stewart. My dad remained at Salina High School till 1979 when he died of cancer at age 57. My mother retired as a librarian in 305. She died in 2018 at the age of 93. And to their dying day, they were so proud of being Kansas educators. They didn't want to do anything else. Now, I've given you a lot of detail about them because I wanted you to see some of the challenges that they faced and that they overcame. And they are not special, they are not unique. I could look around this room and I can guess that many of the educators in this room right now have faced challenges in your profession, in your careers, and you have found a way to go through them, or in the case of my parents, to divert to another path, but all within the educational profession. So it's a great pleasure, as I said, for me to come back to my hometown, and I really applaud educators who work through those obstacles, because that's what makes the really good educators. And I say that as a proud product of the Salina public school system and as the father of 5 children who are also products of this school system. So, as I said, it's just great coming back here and seeing hard work, dedication, professionalism rewarded. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I will have Superintendent Hogan, Erica, and Janelle join you at the front. We do have some special gifts and recognitions for our Teachers of the Year. In addition to the $1,000 H.E. Irma Lee Nuss Teacher of the Year Award, in their gift bag is a custom-made watch co-sponsored by Jeff Aline and Jostens, and a gift certificate donated by Tony Dong and Martinelli's. We greatly appreciate the support our local businesses give to this program. An engraved plaque is also presented to our Teachers of the Year, and their pictures have been hung outside the hall in the hall outside of this room. Their names have also been added to our Teacher of the Year plaque in the hallway. Congratulations again. And if you want. And please allow the board to congratulate you as well. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, now we'll do Kaylee's here, so we'll just have her come up for the Gatorade Player of the Year. So
You gonna do that first?
yeah. Next, we would like to recognize the Kansas Gatorade Athlete of the Year for the girls cross country team. Would Kaylee Schultz and Central High School cross country coaches Brad Dix and Trey Collins meet Superintendent Hogan at the front of the room? The Gatorade Player of the Year is a top honor in high school sports, celebrating the nation's best high school athletes for their excellence in sports, academics, and community. The Gatorade Player of the Year program annually recognizes one state winner from each state in 12 different sports. The award recognizes Kaylee as Kansas's best high school girls cross country athlete, and she joins an elite legacy that spans professional athletes and coaches to CEOs. Kaylee is a junior at Central High School. Alongside being selected for the Kansas Gatorade Athlete of the Year, some notable highlights about her include having an undefeated season, recording the second fastest 5K time in state history, being the 2025 Bob Timmons Award winner, the league champion, regional champion, Class 5A state champion, and she was recently awarded with the KCCTFA Academic All-State Honors, meeting the requirements of being a junior or a senior, maintaining a 3.7 GPA or higher, and placing in the top 30 in the state. Congratulations to Kaylee again on your athletic and academic accomplishments. Next, we'll be recognizing the Superintendent's Excellence Awards. Our first award tonight is for the South High School bowling team. Seth White is the coach, but Coach White was unable to be here this evening. Ashton Lee, will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front? Ashton qualified to compete at the 5A state bowling competition. Congratulations, Ashton. Our next awards go to the South High School esports team. John Hernandez is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front of the room? Will the esports students please line up next to them? The following students qualified for the 2026 State Esports Competition. Students, as I call your name, please step towards Superintendent Hogan so you can receive your award. After you received your award, please walk to the end of the line and remain standing until all of you have been recognized. Xander Fauci Wills. Frank Gomez Almodovar. And Kale Quinton. Congratulations. Please allow the board to congratulate you as well. Our next awards goes to the Central High School boys and girls wrestling teams. Dalton Peters is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front, and will the wrestling students please line up next to them? The following students qualified or placed at the 5A state wrestling competition. Congratulations to state champions Julian Glover and Abram Owens. Phoebe Bohr. Natalia Garcia. Isabella Hall. Abigail Slothauer. And Cody Waite. Congratulations, and please allow the board to congratulate you as well. Our final award of the night goes to the South High School boys and girls wrestling teams. Keenan Wendell is the coach. Will you please join Superintendent Hogan at the front, and will the wrestling students please line up next to them? The following students qualified or placed at the 5A state wrestling competition. Students, again, as I call your name, please step towards Superintendent Hogan so you can receive your award. After you received your award, please walk to the end of the line and remain standing until all the students have been recognized. Hero Franco. Maddox Gerard. Diego Lindano. Gabe Wheelbarger. Mia Dara. Johanna Jasper. Jalen Love. Jennifer Wen. Taylor Sheets. And Lime Vo. congratulations again, and please have the board congratulate you as well.
Thank you to everyone who participated in that portion of our meeting. It's great getting to recognize outstanding students and staff in Salina Public Schools. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Those items this evening are the minutes of the February 10th, 2026 regular meeting, minutes of the February 17th, 2026 special meeting, the personnel report, the financial reports, including the February bills list, January treasurer's report, January investment report, and January journal entries. Approval of the following encumbrance listings. First, to Eagle Technologies for the annual subscription to Arctic Wolf, the district's security awareness software in the amount of $20,900. To Sunland Asphalt in the amount of $100,000 for the milling, repaving, and striping of the parking lot entrance and exit at Lakewood Middle School. To Logicalis in the amount of $917,580.23 for equipment for the wireless network replacement. And to Next Tech Business in the amount of $223,200 for the internet connectivity service contract renewal with Cogent. Approval of the South High School and Central High School fundraising activities for both schools' football programs to sell discount cards. Approval of the South Middle School fundraising activity and Lakewood Middle School fundraising activity for selling chocolates. Approval of the Schilling PTO gift acceptance for playground equipment in the amount of $7,200. Approval of the South High gift acceptance for the football program in the amount of $10,000 from Leon and Junie Hannebaum for the purchase of football uniforms. Approve the ESEA school improvement grant application in the amount of $296,917. Approval of the Federal Head Start Early Head Start grant application in the amount of $6,041,582. with a 25% match of $1,510,396. Approval of the preschool aged at-risk grant application for 0.5 FTE base state aid. Approval of the Kansas Parents as Teachers Program continuation grant application in the amount of $95,050 with a cash match of $51,534. And approval of board policies on second reading. Questions, comments, or motion to approve as presented?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as listed.
Thanks in a second. And seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Next on to public forum, and there were no requests this evening to speak at public forum. So on to our action agenda and item 7A, 2027-2028 tentative school calendar with Superintendent Hogan.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mr. President. Just to give the board a little background, so this is a process that we started last year. USD 305 has a history of approving 2 calendars kind of at a time. We approved the 26-27 calendar earlier, and this will be for the 27-28 calendar. It is just a tentative calendar, but essentially the process, again, starts a year ago. You use a base calendar, which would be a typical school calendar as your starting point, and then based on feedback from our staff, we make slight adjustments for that. Things like balancing semesters and start and ending dates, those kinds of things. This process involves over 20 staff members, and so that's the teacher feedback that we get, and that group has been outstanding to come to the table ready to work with open minds and creative thinking. And so this is a tentative calendar that we're going to ask the board to approve, knowing that it'll have final approval at this time next year.
Questions or comments? Motion to approve.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the 2027-2028 tentative school calendar as presented.
Thank you. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Next on our action agenda, item 7B, textbooks with Laura Lyons.
Good evening. I bring for you again for your consideration our textbooks for this year. I wanted to take a moment just to talk a little bit about the process that our teachers go through in order to make these selections. The process begins in September, and through the months of October and into the fall, our teachers work on updating their curriculum, looking at changes that have been made, including changes that might have been made to the research base for the materials that they select. We spend some time making sure that the materials that we review are of the highest quality and the best aligned to standards. And after that time, they review based on the board criteria that is in policy IF to make sure that what they're selecting is aligned to the priorities set out in that agenda. And finally, they send me an evaluation paragraph that says this is the justification for the choice that we've made. Those teams always include teachers from both of our feeder patterns, so always teachers from Lakewood, as well as South Middle, Central High School, and South High School. This year we also did ELL, which meant that we had some elementary teachers join us for that. And I have to thank my colleagues who helped facilitate the process. Melanie Hammond for our CTE textbooks, Krista Lindenberger, and Jody Craddock-Iceland for helping to facilitate the ELL, an elementary part of ELL. So all of those people contributed to this hard work. And I wanted to ask if you have any further questions of me that I can help in your considering the textbooks for this year.
Questions for Laura?
Mr. President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the textbooks as presented at the February 10th, 2026 meeting.
Taking a second. And seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much. And now on to item 7C, assessment review for budget considerations with Dr. Shannon Rector.
Good evening. I wanted to have a chance to speak with all of you tonight to give a little bit of context to the actions and also the timeline behind this particular agenda item. And so as part of our KSDE, or Kansas State and Department of Education accreditation processes and school improvement, and along with also some legislative guidelines, school districts and school boards are to take a review of their student data, look at their performance, the outcomes that we are achieving as a school district. And within those outcomes, they are also supposed to look at the barriers that may be in front of our students and our families to supporting the students to meet those outcomes. And so as a district, we engage in a very intense needs assessment process that starts way early in the fall. And each building follows a protocol for that needs assessment. We have outlined the data that we want them to look at. So they talk about their current state, they talk about the desired state, of where they would like to see that data. And we kind of align that to the strategic plan, so looking at critical thinking data, looking at communication data, and then also looking at our social emotional data. And so as the principals engage with their staff and their site councils, looking at the data that we have, they also think about what are the needs, and the needs to be able to help students overcome barriers, and also the needs that we would have for our staff and for our everybody that helps with that process of education. What is the needs that we have in our district that we need to consider as we think about how to spend our fiscal resources? And so within this needs process, they work on it through the fall, and they provide that document to the Educational Programs Department in December, at the end of December, and then all of those needs assessments are reviewed by the executive team of the district, and looking for patterns, trends, kind of the things that kind of rise to the top that we then want to bring to the Board of Education in our January meeting. And so in January, we had a special meeting that we worked with all of you as board members, and then brought in the principals so they could speak directly to the needs and the barriers that they see within their schools. We really do believe that the principals, they know the schools the very best, and what a perfect opportunity to have them talk to board members and to kind of be part of this bigger discussion of what we need as a system and as a district to be able to meet the needs of students. And so after that night in January, we really then take all of the information that we've gathered from the needs assessments, from the feedback that came through that engagement with the board, and we really look at those 3 questions that the Board of Education is considering. And so we, with the input from the board and from the principals, we look at that needs assessment process, and we answer 3 different questions. We identify the barriers that must be overcome for each student to achieve grade level proficiency on assessments. We look at identifying the budget actions that should be taken to address and remove those barriers, and then also identify the amount of time the board estimates it will take for each student to achieve grade level proficiency on the state assessments if the budget actions would be implemented. So taking in all of those kind of prompts that we think through as a district, we were able to identify some statements. And really, when you look at the document that's in the board packet tonight, this document did not happen just from this year. Actually, it is really a revision and an evolution of the work that's been done over several years. And so knowing that within a community, our barriers don't change overnight, and some of these barriers are ones that we have been working hard towards for many years. But we also, it's important for us to step back and say, are there things that have kind of come up in the last year that maybe we hadn't considered, or do we have other data that allows us to think from it from a different perspective? So we wanted to make sure we went back in to the original communication that we had provided about barriers and make sure that we really believe those barriers are still in place, and then also to see if there was needed any expansion. And so that first question on identifying barriers to overcome, one of the things that we really looked at there is to try to identify, we know that we have students that have varying barriers, but also that they have different needs. They have, every student brings something unique to that educational environment, and so we really wanted to step back and look at that full aspect of that. And so within the packet, you'll see that there are items on there that talks about chronic absenteeism, lack of kindergarten readiness. You might see that there's social emotional needs. So each of those barriers are ones that we have identified that students may need to be, that we have influence over as a school system to be able to help the students be able to succeed and to be able to overcome those barriers. Then the other thing that we looked at were the system-wide barriers. So sometimes within a large school system, you're going to have things that are kind of barriers that are created just by the system itself, and things that we really have to make sure that we look at. And it may be that because there is a limited resource, it may be that if we had all the resources in the world, we still may not be able to fully meet like mental health services for students. Some of these are very large barriers that a system is trying to overcome. So we have to weigh that as we make decisions. And so we looked at some of those system-wide barriers that we needed to look at. And then the last thing there were some barriers that we may have influence over, but we may not be able to have full control over some of these barriers. And so some of those were like family instability, family social emotional needs, which is actually one that was added this year because we really are seeing that need for mental health and being able to kind of help their students when they also need to have some help for themselves. And then another piece is that student substance. That was something that was added because we are, as a district, seeing that there is a concern over student substance use and making sure that we're partnering with different organizations in the community, because that is a barrier that is somewhat out of our control. We may be able to have influence, we may be able to support, but there are also other resources within the community that we need to leverage to help us with that. Then the next question was about the actions and how would we help remove those barriers. And that really kind of outlines when we think about our budget allocation and the things that we are going to say, bring forward to the board to say, these are really where we believe our resources need to be put to. And so you'll see things on there like commit resources to increase pay for staff. And that is something that the board and all of the district has been committed to year after year, making sure that we can commit that offset resources to increasing pay for staff. One that kind of evolved over time was the continued visible learning training. We are getting ready next year to start our 4th year with that visible learning training, and that really has changed in the sense that before we were looking at big, wide-scale training for all staff, kind of in a more of a group setting, and what you're really going to see next year, what we're looking at is how do we differentiate that and make sure we're getting the buildings exactly what they need to be able to meet the needs of their students at their site. We've always talked about trying to sustain all of the support staff, and so it takes teachers, it takes the support staff, it takes administrators, it takes the community parents, everyone to help support students. A couple of areas that also we had some additions to was that when we talked about enhancing academic, behavior, and social emotional supports, we added some terminology there that's new for this document, which is multi-tiered system of support, MTSS. That's kind of an educational word that we use within school systems, but really what that talks about is making sure you have a really strong foundation that is available to all students. And that's where we have our guaranteed and viable curriculum. When we think about high-quality instructional materials that our students have access to, like Dr. Lyons spoke of just earlier, making sure that what we do for all students is at the strongest level that we can have it. And then we also need to think that there are times when students need more, and so that's the Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. And those interventions may be to support students that need support on reaching those standards, and it may be for students that need opportunities to go beyond the standards. So thinking about how do we look at all of our students' needs. And then another piece of that is investing in that high-quality instructional materials, but also kind of sustaining our kindergarten readiness. As we think about what we've done with preschools at our elementary schools, we expanded this year, to have an additional classroom at Cottonwood, and we want to continue to maintain those preschool environments at Cottonwood and all of our other elementaries and Heartland. So that was more of a sustained piece that we see with our budget recommendations. And then the last part of the document where we're identifying the amount of time and what would need to happen for all students to be able to achieve grade level proficiencies. And the things that you see on this list hasn't changed except for the year that we achieve it. And you're going to see high quality staff, full staffing, full funding for special education, universal transportation, high-quality, accessible mental health supports, extended learning opportunities, universal full-day preschool for 3 and 4-year-old children, early childhood learning experiences for children birth to age 3, and supports for families. And so those are areas that we know that as we put in our energies and efforts, that's where our focus is to be able to meet the needs of students. And so I would bring it forward for any questions that you have about our needs assessment process.
Questions, comments?
No questions, but I think it's always a really great process, and you do a great job organizing it and engaging us in it, and I appreciate that. So, Mr. President, I move that we approve the assessment review for budget considerations document as presented.
Thanks. In a second. In seconds, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you
so much. I know this was a document and process brought about by legislation, so I hope this is just an active call to anyone in the legislature to review our budget considerations tonight. Looking at the actions taken over the last couple of weeks, I don't know that many of them hit on any of these items that Salina Public Schools is having trouble with, and in turn our community is having trouble with meeting for our families and for the educational needs of our students. So just again, an open call. You wanted us to do this process. I hope you review it and take some action on it. Next on our agenda, on to discussion agenda. Item 8A, 2026-2027 Athletic Handbook with Superintendent Hogan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Board, you have in front of you the language change. So this is just part of our review process. We do have an athletic board that gets together to discuss action items that may need to take place, and we want to have this handbook reviewed on a yearly basis. The change that we have is somewhat in a red line format for you. Not a significant change, just something that maybe flows a little better in the document in terms of allowing principal to have authority to deviate if violations take place or consequences need to be set apart. Again, we do the same thing with discipline in the classrooms or our schools where principal can make judgment calls, and so this language clears that up.
Any questions, comments? If there are no issues, we could move this to action and approve it tonight so it doesn't have to come back before us next month.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the changes to the, or maybe I should say, I move that we approve the whole athletic handbook for 2026-2027 with the changes as presented.
Thank you. Deanna seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Now on to school board reports and upcoming dates of importance. It's hard to believe there are April and May dates on this list, but Tuesday, April 14th, Slime Education Foundation reception here prior to our April board meeting at 4:30. It's at 4:30 prior to our April board meeting at 5:30. Saturday, April 18th, Teacher of the Year Region 1 ceremony, 5 p.m. at Tony's Pizza Event Center. And high school graduation, Salina Central at 2 p.m. on Sunday, May 17th, and Salina High South at 5 p.m., both at Tony's Pizza Event Center. Sir, Paul, we'll start with you down there.
Good evening. On the 13th, I was able to have the pleasure to present Miss Ashley Hutflis at Schilling Elementary with the You Make a Difference Award, and stayed around a little while afterwards for a bit of lunch with my 2 grandkids.
Yes, I attended this Smoky Hill Education Service Center Executive Cabinet meeting for February. I'm also going to attend another one tomorrow, but I also sang songs of the American Revolutionary War with Meadowlark 5th graders. I attended the special board meeting, like everybody, and I attended Footloose at South High Theater. Last Thursday, I attended the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge and put in my vote for the People's Choice. I saw some really well-developed business plans from high school students across Saline County. I also had a fun time reading a book to Hughesner 5th graders. I read I Survived the Dust Bowl, 1935, by Ms. Lauren Tarshis. That's all. Thank you.
I attended the the Salina Education Foundation board meeting, full board meeting.
I attended the NEA meeting and also the violins and what is that called? Orchestra? I'm not on that side of the fence, so. But anyways, I attended that. It was very good. I got into it because my granddaughter is doing it, and so I've been watching the violins play, and there's some really talented kids in there. There was one that she had a really extreme honor bestowed upon her, so they are really representing 305 very well. So I'm very proud of those kids.
I just went to the KASB Foundations of Boardsmanship in Lynchburg.
I attended a Parks and Rec meeting, and then, Lisa, I think I'm right when I say regionals in Hayes wrestling. Is that regionals? Oh, I attended that. It was really fun. I hadn't been to a wrestling meet in a long time. So, yeah.
Thank you all. I attended a CKCIE Board of Control meeting for February. It's the time of year when they start discussing staff placements and positions for the coming school year. That will continue this month, with budget considerations. I also attended the KASB Foundation's boardmanship with Superintendent Hogan and our 2 new board members. Thank you both, ladies, for taking that time. It was great getting to chat with you and know you both, and working with Superintendent Hogan on how all this goes. So I also was able to attend Central High's jazz band performance at the Kansas Music Educators Conference in Wichita here at the first of the month, and that was an impressive group of music students as well, and a great opportunity for our district to be showcased, both the outstanding staff that work here every day and the students they get to work with. So thank you. Now on to superintendent's report with superintendent.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I, middle of February, got to attend the AASA National Convention, and I just want to again thank the board for allowing me to attend that conference. It's the National Conference for Superintendents. I had not attended that conference before. They change locations every year, but I was fortunate enough to go, and it was great, outstanding. And so I appreciate that and getting to go and circle yourself around like-minded people, I'll say, but certainly it's always interesting to hear people's challenges and successes, and the challenges resemble those that we are faced in the state of Kansas as well. So it's great to be able to put your minds together and work on some of those challenges. I attended the Visible Learning Leadership Team training. We had 2 days. This time we sort those into levels. I attended the Board of Controls meeting as well. On the 23rd of February, I got to be interviewed on the Bob and Jeff show again, which was quite interesting. Those gentlemen are entertaining and a little off script sometimes, so it was an interesting process to go through. I had done that early in the year when I first started, so nice follow-up. The 25th of February, I attended a district site council meeting. We had really great feedback, good attendance for that and great feedback. So I just wanted to thank our parents who took the time to come in and share their honest feedback and thoughts with us on how we can improve in the systems that we have currently. So that was great. February 27th, also the Foundations of Boardmanship member Zimmerman came too. So appreciate just the support that we have from our veteran board members as our new board members are coming on and kind of drinking from a fire hose at times. So we appreciate that. March 2nd, I got to read to kindergarten at Hughesner, 3 classes of kindergarten in the library. So that was like herding cats. And I got to read the book Pete the Cat. And we were celebrating Read Across America Week. So honored to be invited to go do that and be around kids. Reminded me why we certainly do these jobs. March 3rd, I attended the South High and Central High boys basketball game. It was awesome, great crowd, really good game. And of course, it's celebration and sadness all in the same evening for our community. March 4th, I attended the admin meeting and new administration orientation. We had our NEA leadership meeting that evening as well, and I also got to attend, coincidentally, South High and Central High girls basketball game, which was also exciting and entertaining. I made sure to wear neutral colors both nights, so I was safe. And then just a few announcements for dates that are coming up. So this week, March 12th, the Greater Salina Community Foundation has Match Madness, and our 5th graders will get to participate in that. We have a private donor that gives them money that they actually get to make selections on what they want to participate in. So that will be exciting. I've not attended one of those yet, so I'll go take part in that. And then 2 other announcements. Our kindergarten roundups for the 27-28 school year will be coming up. Is that right? 26-27. 26-27 school year. Oakdale and Stewart will host their roundups on April 21st. April 23rd, the rest of our elementary buildings will hold their roundups. So just watch our district webpage for additional information that might be coming out, or you can contact your school for more information. And new this year, we have a pre-K roundup, and that will be on March 26th from 6 to 7 at the Salina Public Schools elementary location where your pre-K students will attend. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to 12A, executive session first for negotiations, 30 minutes, we said? Yes. Okay. Motion for that executive session.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 6:31 for 30 minutes for the purpose of discussing employer-employee negotiations. Because if this matter were discussed in open session, it might jeopardize resolution of the negotiation issues, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:01 in the SEC boardroom.
Second. Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We will recess to executive session, be back in open session in this room at 7:01. We are back in open session and do have a need for additional time.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7:02 for 10 minutes for the purpose of discussing employer-employee negotiations. Because of this matter were discussed in open session, it might jeopardize the resolution of the negotiation issues, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:12. Did I say something?
Would you be okay with 7:03 and
7:03 and 7:13, yes, in the SEC room.
Any second? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. We'll be back in open session in this room at 7:13. In open session and are moving on to 12B, attorney-client executive session for 10 minutes at 7:17.
Afternoon, evening, President. I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7:16 for 10 minutes. 7:17, excuse me. For 10 minutes for the purpose of consultation with board legal counsel on matters which are privileged in attorney-client relationship, which if discussed in open session would waive that privilege, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:27 in the SEC room.
Second. And seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We will recess into 4-0. We will recess into executive session, be back in open session in this room at 7:27. Back in open session and are on to 12C, executive session for student matters for 10 minutes.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7:30 for 10 minutes for the purpose of discussing matters relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a person as a student, because if this matter were discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:40 in the SEC room.
Thank you, sir. Second. All seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. We'll be back in open session in this room at 7:40. Open session and do have a need for more time. You want to do 43 and 5 minutes?
All right. Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education go into executive session at 7:43 for 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing matters relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a person as a student, because if this matter were discussed in open session, it might invade the privacy of those discussed, and that the Board of Education reconvene into open session at 7:48, in the SAC room.
Thank you. And seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. We'll be back in open session in this room at 7:48. open session and do have action to take as a result of that executive session.
Mr. President,
Ms. Costo.
I move that the appeal hearing officer's report be adopted by the board and that the board clerk be directed to provide notice to the parties of the result of the appeal.
Second, Scott seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. We are at the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
And everyone seconds. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Dana? Motion carried 7-0. We are adjourned. Thanks for joining us tonight.